Hey guys, alright, we are back with the Napoleonic Wars. This time we are going into Napoleon's bloodiest day, Borodino, 1812. Not gonna spend too much time talking here in the beginning. I've got nothing else to say here at the start, so we're just gonna go ahead and dive right in.
This Epic History TV video is brought to you by Magellan TV, the documentary streaming service.
I never hear anything about Magellan TV. Of all my 50 battles, the most terrible was the one I fought at Borodino. Napoleon.
Russia,
I think I've heard of
1812.
Borodino before. Can't remember the details.
Napoleon invades his former ally with the largest army Europe has ever seen. But for the French Emperor, the decisive blow remains frustratingly beyond reach. Russia's resilience is unlike anything he's ever encountered. And as winter closes in, his army begins the most infamous retreat in history.
Now, Napoleon in Russia, part 2.
September 1812. 10 weeks had passed since Napoleon invaded Russia.
I kind of wish what they would do here is kind of add some tint of blue to kind of like show, all right, here's like land of what Napoleon like controls, even though really he probably didn't have much control over the land. But I still think it's just a personal preference of, I think it'd be a little bit of an easier of understanding Napoleon's French advance into Russia.
With more than 500,000 men. The French Emperor wanted a quick victory over the Russians, one that would force Emperor Alexander to make peace and agree to French terms. But at Vitebsk and then Smolensk, the outnumbered Russian army had narrowly escaped his clutches. The holy city of Smolensk had been virtually destroyed.
Really?
Napoleon had advanced deep into Russia, and months of marching had left his army decimated by disease and exhaustion. It was now hard.
Disease is the true killer of armies. Well, up until the modern day. Up until maybe even World War II was probably where we saw that shift from where it was no longer disease was the scariest threat to an army. But it was now just the enemy. Don't know why that yawn came out.
Half its original strength, and summer was nearly over. But finally, 70 miles west of Moscow, near the village of Borodino, the Russians had turned to offer battle. Napoleon would have a chance to win the decisive victory that he believed would end the war.
Soldiers, here's the battle you have so long desired. Henceforward, victory depends on you. Napoleon's proclamation to the army on the eve of battle.
The Russian army, commanded by the 67-year-old, one-eyed veteran General Kutuzov, occupied a defensive position across the two main roads leading from Smolensk to Moscow.
Gorky.
General Barclay de Tolly's First Army was on the right, its front protected by the Kalatsha River, steep-banked but
Barclay de Tolly? That sounds like a Frenchman.
Shallow and easily forded. Prince Bagration's Second Army was on the left, a more open position but reinforced by major earthworks, the Great Redoubt, and what the French nicknamed, for their shape, the Flèche, the arrows. Another forward redoubt at Shevardino was expected to delay the enemy's advance. Historians still dispute the size of the Russian army, but it's likely Kutuzov had around 121,000 men and 680 guns at Borodino.
So many men. Wow.
On the 5th of September, Napoleon's army began to arrive from the west. Around 130,000 men and 585 guns.
Jesus. It's funny how warfare has advanced through the years. It was, for a long time, it was growing to larger and larger scale conflicts and battles, and then now the modern day has shrunk the size of soldiers out there, like in terms of who take part in battles. It's no longer these like over 100,000 battles like we saw in World War I and World War II. Hell, millions of men fighting battles, and now it's just like a few thousand, maybe. Like the United States has a couple thousand stationed in Afghanistan right now, and the initial invasion force was, I don't know how many, but I think it was under 100,000. So maybe even under 80,000. I can't remember, but it was still like, you know, not numbers like this. It's just crazy how the warfare is advanced from like, must get more men, more men. All right, shrink it down.
Napoleon quickly saw that the Shevardino redoubt would have to be taken before he could deploy his army, and ordered an immediate assault. The attack was led by Compan's 5th Division of the 1st Corps, supported by the Polish 5th Corps to the south. In several hours of heavy fighting, the redoubt changed hands more than once. But late that evening, the Russians finally withdrew to their main line, and the redoubt fell to the French. Its capture had cost them an estimated 4,000 casualties, while the Russians lost around 6,000 men.
Okay. Fair. A decent trade-off, I'd say.
Napoleon noted how few prisoners were taken, a worrying sign of the enemy's unbroken resolve. Both sides spent the next day preparing for battle. Marshal Davout, commanding French 1st Corps and widely considered Napoleon's most able subordinate, appealed to the Emperor to use his corps to make a wide, outflanking attack to the south. But Napoleon dismissed the idea as too risky, and instead began preparing for a massive frontal assault on the Russian defenses.
Ooh, that's a hard call though, because obviously, you know, we have hindsight for us. But what we see here is that there are troops waiting. And it looks like even some are waiting in ambush here, hidden in the woods. And who knows how much of this Napoleon knows about. So, you know, if he sent a significant force down to flank, who knows if it would have been successful or if it could have just gotten slaughtered and ruined his chances even worse than what the outcome of Borodino is historically. I could not escape the feeling that something huge and destructive was changing over all of us. Captain von Linsingen, fuck words.
Shortly after dawn on the 7th of September, Orthodox priests paraded one of Russia's holiest icons, Our Lady of Smolensk, before the Russian army. It was a stirring sight for many devout Russian soldiers, thousands of whom would not live to see dusk.
Rip.
The battle began at 6 a.m. as French batteries opened a deafening cannonade against the Russian defenses. Eugene's 4th Corps advanced on Borodino village, lightly held by Jaegers of the Russian Imperial Guard. After clearing the village, his infantry crossed the Kalacha and advanced towards the Great Redoubt, but were driven back with heavy losses. The Russians burned the bridge across the river, but did not launch a counterattack. And Eugene was able to move cannon into the village to put flanking fire on the Great Redoubt. In the center, Davout's 1st Corps began its advance against the Fleche, coming under heavy fire. While on the right, the Polish 5th Corps, ordered to take Utitsa, got held up in the woods and ravines. Their slow advance allowed Tushkov's 3rd Corps to send a division north to reinforce the Fleche defenses. Kutuzov, at his headquarters in Gorky, took little part in the battle, leaving tactical decisions to his subordinates. Barclay and Bagration had spent most of the summer arguing furiously over strategy, but in the hour of crisis, they put their differences aside. They could see the main French attack was falling on the Russian centre and left. So Barclay ordered General Bagavout's 2nd Corps south to reinforce Bagration. Fighting around the Flèche intensified as the French captured one of the earthworks, only to be driven out by a Russian counterattack.
Huh. This is so fighting a lot like, kind of like World War I almost, with the earthworks here.
Who himself was injured in the fighting as he fell from his dying horse, but he refused to leave the field.
Rip the horse. Rip.
When Russian cavalry counterattacked, Marshal Murat himself led the French cavalry forward to meet them. Ney's 3rd Corps now joined the attack on the Flèche. A charge by Russian cuirassiers forced Murat to take shelter in a square of Württemberg infantry. Murat, with his flamboyant dress and reckless courage, had now even made a name for himself among the Russians. The Cossacks in particular saw him as a kindred spirit and were eager to capture him alive if they could.
Huh.
To the south, Polish...
Yeah, getting Murat would be a devastating blow to Napoleon, because he's one of his best generals.
Troops now took Utitsa, which the Russians set ablaze before withdrawing.
Of course, just like they did.
But General Bagavout's reinforcements arrived just in time to shore up the Russian flank. Around 10 AM, Eugène launched another attack on the Great Redoubt. It was briefly captured by Morand's 1st Division, before his men were thrown out by a ferocious Russian counterattack. The Russian army's 27-year-old artillery commander, General Kutesov, was killed leading one of these counterattacks. A heroic death, but a blow to the organization of Russian artillery for the rest of the day.
Oh, damn.
Fighting continued to rage around the Flèche earthworks. Some counted as many as 6 major French assaults, involving 45,000 troops, with hundreds of cannon on both sides, pouring fire into the packed ranks. More than once, French infantry fought their way into one of the Russian positions, only to be driven out again at bayonet point.
Serious fucking
Junot's
fighting.
Westphalian Corps was sent forward in support, helping to clear Russian skirmishers from the woods to the south. General Bagration was close to the action, overseeing the defense of the Flèche, leading forward reinforcements and ordering counterattacks. Around 10 AM, he was hit in the leg by shell fragments. Mortally wounded, he was carried from the field. Shaken by the loss of their iconic commander, the exhausted Russian infantry began to fall back. The French finally took the Flèche. Marshal Murat then led forward Friant's division, 1st Corps' last reserve, supported by waves of heavy cavalry on both flanks. Russian grenadiers formed squares to ward off.
I love that transition in the animation there from, you know, the normal division outlook here on the overhead map, and then, you know, they form a square.
The French cuirassiers,
I like that they
while
have
their
that
own
detail.
guard cavalry fought the French in a giant confused melee, with heavy losses on both sides. The Russians resisted doggedly, but the combined onslaught of French artillery, cavalry, and infantry proved irresistible. As the Russians pulled back, Friant's infantry fought their way into the village of Semyonovskaya. The Russian center was in disarray and seemed close to
surprised myself with that pronunciation. I think I did it decently.
breaking. Surely now was the time for Napoleon to deliver the knockout blow.
Soldiers, Face to the enemy. Let's go and get killed. French colonel to his men at Borodino. Sounds about right.
For most of the day, Napoleon remained at his headquarters near Shevardino. Those around him later said that illness, as well as the exertions of the long campaign, had left him tired and irritable. As the Russian center buckled, Murat and his staff urged him to send forward his last reserve, the Imperial Guard. The Emperor refused. "If there is another battle tomorrow," he asked them, "where is my army?" But he did make one exception. Barclay was continuing to move troops from his unengaged right wing to bolster the center. As Osterman Tolstoy's 4th Corps arrived behind the Russian center, French observers feared they were massing for an attack. So Napoleon ordered forward General Sorbier's Guard artillery.
Wow.
His batteries opened a devastating fire on the enemy.
And
Yet even as they were mown down in their ranks, the Russian infantry stood their ground. On the Russian right wing, all remained quiet, so General Platov, commander of the Don Cossacks, proposed that he lead an attack on the lightly defended Borodino village. Permission received, Generals Platov and Uvarov led a force of 8,000 Cossacks and cavalry across the Kalacha River. They fell on French and Italian troops around Borodino with complete surprise, spreading panic and disorder.
Ooh, that was a failure on the
Grouchy's
4th
3rd Cavalry Corps had to be pulled back across the river to drive off the Russians. Russian commanders saw this raid as a missed opportunity, but it had delayed the next French attack by 2 hours, and may have persuaded Napoleon that he was right to hold back his reserve.
I had never seen such carnage. General Rock, Napoleon's aide-de-camp, wounded for the 22nd time? Holy shit.
Around 3 p.m., the French launched their biggest assault yet on the Great Redoubt. Russian gunners targeted the French infantry advancing to their front, allowing French cavalry to outflank the redoubt and charge it from the rear. Saxon cavalry were first in, cutting down Russian infantry and gunners almost to the last man. It was an astonishing feat by the horsemen, against all the rules of war, and testament to the ferocity of the fighting.
Damn.
As Eugene's infantry consolidated their hold on the redoubt, he ordered forward all the available cavalry to exploit this success. But they were met and checked by the last Russian cavalry reserves. Eugene now implored Napoleon to commit the Imperial Guard, but again the Emperor refused.
Jeez.
"I will not destroy my guard," he told his staff. "I am 800 leagues from France, and I will not risk my last reserve."
I mean, I can see the reasoning behind Napoleon holding him back, and I honestly, I mean, Napoleon's one of the greatest generals in history, and I can see the reasoning behind it, and I can't really disagree with the choice either. It makes sense why he, wouldn't commit them. I mean, yeah, it's costly on the side of, on your general army. Napoleon's losing a lot here in this fighting, but he's still somewhat winning. He still can win with this. He doesn't need the reserves yet. I wouldn't necessarily say he truly needs the reserves to be committed yet, but, there's definitely arguments on both ends.
By 5 p.m., both armies were in a state of utter exhaustion. The battlefield was strewn with dead and wounded. Some infantry battalions could muster only a third of their strength. Cavalry could advance no faster than a trot. Gun crews were collapsing with fatigue. As dusk approached, fighting slowly died out across the battlefield. Napoleon and the French army expected the fighting to resume the next day. But by dawn, Kutuzov, having learned the full, horrifying scale of Russian losses, had ordered a withdrawal.
Huh.
The losses on both sides were enormous. Russian casualties are estimated at 44,000.
Damn.
French losses around 30,000,
Ooh,
including 49
that's not good.
generals, 12 of them killed.
That's a lot
Borodino
of dead
would
for
prove
this
to be
time
the
period.
bloodiest single day of the Napoleonic Wars.
Oh, and it's all in one day? Oh, that makes it so much
The
worse.
Russian army could not fight another battle until it had received major reinforcements. And so Kutuzov decided that he must abandon Moscow. On the 15th of September, a week after his victory at Borodino, Napoleon entered the city. He would find it virtually deserted, and already the first fires starting to burn.
Oh, that's nice. You know, nice and warm welcome. You know, with the fires, get out of that Russian cold and warm up by the fire. Feels great. Actually, what month was Borodino? Because then that determines whether it's summer or not. So it may not actually be that cold. Anyways, that was Napoleon's Bloodiest Day, Borodino, 1812 by Epic History TV. I hope you guys enjoyed. I certainly did. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.